Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Gunshine State. I'm your host, Craig DeLuz, and, we're talking about firearms policy, politics, culture, media, you name it. We're talking about right here on the Gunshine State in the great state of Florida. So please take a moment. Please remember to like and share this video so that your friends can know where the conversation is taking place. Also, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And make sure in the case of Facebook and YouTube, make sure you hit the notification button. That way you can get the notifications as soon as we go live, and you can participate in the live chat as the program is going on. Also, want to encourage you, please become a member of Florida Carry if you are not already one. We are Florida's premier Second Amendment civil rights advocacy groups. Nobody's doing what we're doing, so we need you to be a part. Just do me a favor, click the link, click the join link in the description to this video, and there's many membership levels there for you, so just go ahead and click on that and become a member today. Help us help you fight for your right to keep and bear arms in the state of Florida. All right, as you can see, we are still here in Detroit, Michigan. We're still training women, helping them to get comfortable with firearms, and hopefully introducing them to a long life in the 2A community. It's been a fantastic event. We've had, as I've said before, trainers and activists from all across the country, and one of those folks has joined me here today, and you guys may or may not recognize him, but his name is Jim Irvine, and he is with Faster Saves Lives. Jim, how are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing awesome. Thanks for having me on, and thank you for coming all the way up here from Florida. It's so important that we intermix and we work together. You guys have been doing great work for a long time, and as somebody who works with lots of gun groups across the country, if you're not a member of Florida Carry, you got to join. It's a great group. They do great stuff.
Excellent. So tell the folks where you're from. What state?
So
you're from?
I'm from Ohio, and up here in Detroit, helping out Rick Ector, and like you said, introducing over 1,500 women this weekend into their firing their first shot. So it's just been a riot, a fun time. Lots of neat people. It's so neat to see that fear and anxiety turn into excitement and empowerment, and have them go, can I get my license? Where do I sign up to take the next class? It's just the coolest thing in the world. That's how we win this. We bring in new people. It's the neatest thing in the world.
Now, yeah, you mentioned before, the goal for this weekend was 1,500. Day one, we did about 1,200.
1,200, I hear.
So I have a feeling we're going to probably blow that goal out of the water.
Crush it. Yeah.
Crush it. Definitely crush it. So now training, this is not your first time training, obviously. Tell folks what you do with Faster.
So FASTER it's an acronym, stands for Faculty, Administrator, Safety Training, and Emergency Response. And what we do is we train our school staff to deal with an active killer. So even though I live up in Ohio, I'm an airline pilot, I'm based in Miami, Florida. So the Parkland incident, it's close to me. I've flown with multiple people who are in that district, with kids in that district. And for anybody who's not really familiar with it, read the book Why Megan Died by Andrew Pollack. It will make you infuriated, but it's not about that district. It's not about one incident. It's about our school system and the systemic problems, and you parents need to be involved in your kids' schools. It is critical stuff. So it's dealing with the active killers, and the medical stuff gets overlooked. Your schools have got to have trauma-trained people and equipment in the building. If they don't, it's negligent today. I mean, if you don't have an AED in the school, if you don't have your kids in child seats and seat belts, you're negligent as a parent. If the school district doesn't have medical stuff, they're negligent.
I will tell you, we I know school districts that are doing more and more school districts, whether they're in a state that allows firearms teachers to be armed or not, that they're all doing these active killer trainings.
Yep.
But the number of them that are not doing the trauma training, that are not learning first aid, how to address a gunshot wound, but also making sure they have the kits, the stuff that they need in order to be able to do it.
You need the tools, and
Right.
you need the training and the expertise, and you need to review it every year, and it needs to be part of your plan on what you're going to do. And too many schools are worried about the after action and how to deal with it, and they spend time dealing with how are we going to respond to media, how are we going to respond to parents, what are we going to do? Well, you know what? Better than the triage after the event is save the lives in the first place. Then you don't have the train wreck later. We need to put more emphasis on that, and it's frustrating to me. There's quote-unquote experts in our country that advise school districts, and they pay a lot of money for people who don't understand the event, and they give them bad advice. And I don't fault the school board for that, because they paid money and they trusted someone they should have. But parents have got to be involved. You've got to ask what your school's doing. If they don't have tourniquets in your building, they're not ready. They haven't done their due diligence, and get on them about it. And if they give you a hard time, go to Faster Saves Lives or call me. I will get involved personally, because I hate when our little kids die and they don't have to. I just find that unacceptable.
Now, you guys have to have teachers come from all over the country, don't you?
We do. We've trained ballpark. We started after the Sandy Hook massacre is when we really started doing this. And to date, we've trained roughly 3,000 people in probably 300 districts in 19 or 20 different states. So it is really one of the leading programs in the country, not because of me. What we do is facilitate getting our school staff trained by our nation's expert trainers. Mm-hmm. And that's what we do is link those two up and facilitate it and make it work. So it's really neat. Florida's a little bit of a difficult situation on the armed staff because the requirements are, they put in law enforcement training for the school staff, which is not appropriate. We don't want our teachers didn't sign up to be cops, and they don't want to be cops, and we don't want to make them cops. All we need to do is stop the killing, and we're pausing this timeline so that not as many people get shot, and those that are shot get medical treatment. We still need law enforcement, we still need everything else there, but it's a stopgap thing, and all of this training they do is not really appropriate to a school staff, in my opinion, and it impedes the training they actually need. But it is what it is. You can absolutely do the medical stuff. Every state can do that, and we're making progress in Florida, and you guys are really at the leading edge of fixing things and laws on not just that, but everything related to firearms.
Now, there's a lot of misconceptions that people have out there when you start talking about arming teachers. Like, the first thing is they think that, okay, we're going to require teachers to have firearms. How wrong is that perception?
It's funny. It's very common, but it is wrong as you can get. I joke with school boards. I'm like, hey, we're going to have an honest, serious conversation. Number one is the vast majority of your staff want nothing to do with carrying a gun. And they're like, hey, right. I'm like, and you don't want them carrying guns. And they're like, no, we don't. I'm like, we don't want to train them. We're all on the same page. And they're like, wait a minute, I thought that's what you did. I'm like, but there are a couple people that are going to the scene on event day anyway, just like Coach Feist did, just like Joe Myrick, just like Victoria Soto, and on and on and on. And you've got a couple people in the building. They don't care what your policy is. They don't care what the risk of their own life. They love those kids enough. They will go die for them. Mm-hmm. Identify a couple of those people. That's who we want to train. And they're like, well, yeah, we got a couple of those. Like, that's all this is. It's getting them the ability, if they're going there anyway, how about we get them the training, the tools, and the skills to stop the killing before the next kid gets shot? And it's so funny because multiple school boards are like, well, yeah, that's not controversial. I'm like, exactly. There's nothing controversial about this if you understand what it really is. It's that in a nutshell.
Now, one of the other fallacies is that, well, obviously, law enforcement is trained for active killer situations. So, and there's no way that teachers could possibly be prepared to address a situation like that.
Yeah, and it's funny, I tell the school board, we'll have your school staff outperforming the average law enforcement officer in 3 days. No, that's ridiculous, that's impossible. Well, there's two sides on that. One is, law enforcement is awesome at what they do day to day. They're great at traffic enforcement, they're great at, sadly, drug interdiction, they're great at domestic violence, they're great at a lot of ugly stuff that they do every day. Our society, the idea of defunding police is insane. You have no idea how bad things will be if that actually happens anywhere. But they don't do active killers. Most cops will live their whole entire career and never respond to one. And unfortunately, their training is not geared towards that because their training's geared towards the job that they do every day. Well, that's all of our jobs are like that. So the school staff, we're training for one specific event on their home field with people they know. So it's a totally different dynamic that's going on. And again, we're not training them we're not training them how to search bodies. We're not training them how to search buildings. We're not training them how to do arrests and detainment and all of these other law enforcement functions that are critical that are coming. They're just stopping the killer so that no one's dying while our police are responding to the event for all of the stuff they got to come do. So they work together. In our districts that have been doing this for years, it's so neat because it starts out law enforcement like, wait a minute, what are you doing? And so they're a little apprehensive. And then the school districts, we want them to qualify every year with their local law enforcement. And wait, I got to qualify teachers now? I don't know. I don't want liability. But you coerce them into doing it. You can't. What, are you going to tell your school district no? You're going to tell them you don't want them to qualify? Come on. So they'll do it. Our school staff are scared to death to go qualify with law enforcement. They're like, whoa, these guys are kings. They're good. So they train and they're ready. And they go. The performance is really good. And normally the law enforcement is always surprised. They're like, wow, I wish my cops shot that good. I go, well, next time have your cops and the teachers do it together. Right. And that's what the good departments do. And it's funny because what we've seen is law enforcement standard is raised, teacher standard is raised, and they have a friendly competition amongst each other. But now they're training together on the range, in the schools. The benefits on this, we've seen multiple things, that, not even an active killer, just other issues that come up in your school systems all across the country. It's crazy what our schools have to deal with. Having a school that has that relationship with law enforcement pays dividends in so many ways because they're friends now. They know each other. They trust each other, and that trust allows them to solve problems before they become problems.
And they're not just showing up when there's something going wrong.
Right.
Right? It gives you an opportunity to build those relationships and build those partnerships so that you can not just build relationships between the staff and law enforcement, but also integrate that law enforcement to become a part of the school community.
Exactly.
Which is this community policing that people say that we want. Instead of trying to fake it, why not do it in a natural way?
Yeah. And it does. It pays the community. The communities that have this will go crazy if you try and take it away because they see the benefits that have been gained over years. And little things like your law enforcement officer goes to a seminar and hears something on law enforcement, but there's something that relates to a school or an active killer or somebody told him a story. Because he's your friend, he'll come back and he'll tell you that. And your school gets to learn from that for free. And our schools have events happen and they've got a suspicion on something. They've got a relationship with law enforcement that they can reach out and do something where other law enforcement say, we don't want law enforcement involved. Well, that ability that you can trust and say, yeah, we want you involved, but we don't want a big official thing on this. Hey, you've got friends, you've got relationships. It pays dividends both ways. Neither one wants out of that once they're in that relationship because they realize how valuable it is. And it's not about a 3-day class. It's about a long-term relationship and changing the way we think about things and changing the way we work together. And it's I never saw any of this coming. I didn't plan one iota of any of this, but I can see the benefit now that it's there, and I hear it from law enforcement, I hear it from the schools, and it's the way of the future for our schools.
All right, so I can tell you right now, I know that there are parents who are watching you right now, who are listening to you right now, who would see the benefit of this being in their school district. How do they get connected with you and follow the work you're doing and work to try and get your work into their school district?
Faster Saves Lives. Go to the website, fastersaveslives.org. There's all sorts of information. Our contact information's on there. And read it, look at it, print it off, take it in and have a discussion with your local school board, with your superintendent, with your principal, your teacher, whoever you've got a relationship with, and get involved. I have parents tell me they don't have time or it's frustrating or they're beating their head against a brick wall. Yeah, sometimes it is. But you keep on them. Start with the medical. No one's opposed to medical. No one's opposed to saving somebody's life who needs treatment. So, and the reality is, they're not getting treatment in an act of killing. That's part of the reason our death toll is so high in this. Anywhere else we get shot today, 90% chance of survival because we treat them. In an act of killing, we let them lay there and die. That's just not acceptable. The school is legally and morally responsible for those kids. They need to treat them. But our cops can't get there and our medics aren't allowed in until all of this other stuff happens. It's the reality of the event. So get involved and work with them. Call me if you need to, but keep working on it because I've also talked to parents who've lost kids because they didn't do enough. And I will tell you that will eat at you for the rest of your life. That's what you don't have time in your life for. I guarantee it. Yeah. Learn from look, I didn't start out doing any of this stuff. This is the last thing in the world I ever thought I'd be involved with. I got into it because other people showed me the light and showed me how important this was. And once you realize it, you're like, wow, how could I have ever thought anything different? How could I have not done more? Get involved, do stuff, because your kids' lives depend on it. It's the most important thing you'll ever do for your kids.
Thank you. Thank you for all the work that you do. Thank you across the country that you do with parents and that you do with school districts. Thank you for coming out to Detroit and for all the work you've done and are going to get back to doing with the women here in Detroit. We very much appreciate you. Appreciate the work that you do.
Hey, it is awesome. Florida Carry is one of the premier groups, not in Florida, in the whole stinking country. You guys do great work. We watch you. We look at what you do. We get ideas from you. We're like, yeah, we got to copy them on that. We got to copy them on that. Oh, that's a great law. So you guys are a neat group. Florida's paved the way on this for 30 years, and you guys are at the tip of the spear. You do awesome work, and they're great guys. These are just fun guys to hang out with. Come out to one of their events, participate, and have fun, and I'll see you at one of them, I hope. So take care.
You are entirely too kind. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Jim Irvine from Faster Saves Lives. All right, folks. That's going to be it for this episode of the Gunshine State. We very much appreciate you guys tuning in. We appreciate you liking and sharing the program, telling your friends about Florida Carry, Florida's premier Second Amendment civil rights advocacy group. We'll talk to you again real soon.
They are a great